it's easier to like work with people and have a little critique of what they want to do, especially if you're going to own everything, than it is to just try and do everything yourself, because overwhelming yourself is you're never going to get anything done that way.
This is Don't Fear Grit with Rob Taormina. Marketing strategies and advertising technologies to help you build a better business.
Hey guys, welcome back. I'm really excited to have today's guest in the studio because we're going to be talking about a few topics that I think many of you are either going to relate to or be excited about learning. Number one is, can you in fact build something through something like a pandemic? Is it possible to even create a business, launch a brand new business through a thing like a pandemic? Also, if anyone has any interest in comic books, if you've ever read a comic book before, you're absolutely going to love this, because this is a gentleman who not only reads them, but writes them. That's right. We actually have a comic book author. I don't even know if that's the right way of titling it, but we're going to get right into it. Welcome to the studio, my old friend, comic book author, entrepreneur, Nick Garcia.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. It looks great in here, man. It's awesome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate that. We love this space. We have a lot of fun in it, and we have a lot of other really cool people that are able to come in and use this particular studio. But listen, this is about you. I first want you to give everyone a little bit of a backstory here. Give everyone some context, who you are, and why comic books.
Okay. Who I am. My name is Nick. First off, I'm just a kid who I don't know, I was always kind of into nerd stuff. And growing up in a church and stuff, there was never any good like nerd content. There was always like a group that was cast aside in like secular and the Christian realm. Like people just didn't care about them, and being one of them, I figured it's time to just put out something that's non-corny and relatable to everybody. So
yeah,
that's why I did it.
All right, so that's what sort of brought you to a place of wanting to put out stuff. You just weren't seeing something of quality from your perspective.
Yeah.
So and you were coming from a place of someone who read comics.
Yeah, I've been reading comics since I was in high school.
All right, so give us the rundown. Like, what are some of your favorite comics? Like, what were you reading when you were younger? What are you reading now?
Okay. I was always a DC guy. I guess mostly because they had a bunch of video games out when I was younger. And I was able to latch onto their characters. Teen Titans was huge for me. I'm a big Teen Titans fan. Cyborg's just my favorite superhero. And then I was always like a fantasy like reader type of guy. Grew up with Lord of the Rings and all that stuff, so I was just big into fantasy, World of Warcraft, all that stuff. But reading comic books, I guess one of my favorite series of all time was Death of the Family, which was the Scott Snyder a written book by DC probably about 5 years ago at this point, where the Joker just comes in and like peels the face off of all the Robins and stuff like that. Really tries to mess with Batman, and that was like, man, this is awesome. I don't know.
Right.
One day I want to write something like this, And
wow, is that right?
Yeah, from high school I was writing a little bit to myself, and then in college I took a couple creative writing courses. I took a short film writing course, and it's never something I thought I would get into. It's just something I kind of did for fun and kind of prided myself in being able to do. Just never delved into it until recently.
Now take us back to day one when you were writing the comic that we're going to be obviously introducing to everyone here. Did you sit down with the intent of writing this, or like you were just like sort of like fooling around one day and just writing stuff and you were like, wait a minute, I'm onto something here? How did that play out?
Okay. So actually initially this was an idea for a video game that I was going to put out. So my company, we also put out some mobile games and stuff like that, with a vision of one day expanding to console and just being like a big, titan in the industry, hopefully one day. But this originally was an idea for that. But I figured, why wait for that technology to be accessible? Because I wouldn't want something like this on a small mobile screen. I want something like this, if it was to be a game like big console, like very large budget type of game. Yeah. So let's bring that type of vision to something I can do now. And that's when I got into the comic book idea for it.
Gotcha. What's the name of your company?
We're V1 Studios.
V1 Studios. You got a video game already out. Now you got yourself a comic. If it's all right, I'm gonna pick this one up here.
Absolutely, go for it.
I know you this is like hot off the press, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how long has now this been? People are able to purchase this.
Able to purchase it a week today.
A week. So this is brand new.
Yeah.
Is this one of your first interviews to promote this?
The first one.
This is the first interview. All right, we're honored. By the way,
of course.
I'm gonna hold this up. Right here. I don't know if our producer Craig, you see it? Awesome. So this is the comic right here. Obviously, we also have it center for everyone. It's called Flight Team. I see some 4 characters. Do me a favor. Can you explain these 4 characters to me? Why they're important and why you decided to start off with these 4 guys right here?
Okay, sure. So every character, I'll go from top to left to right here.
Yeah.
You got Marcos, the big lion guy. You got Dimitri over here. He's kind of like a little cyborg guy with 2 guns. You got Klaus up front with he's got a bow and arrow that could change elements whenever he seems fit. And then on the far side, you got Jewel, who's like a kind of spellcaster type of chick. She's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite character?
Yeah, actually, I really like Marcos and I really like Jewel. She's pretty powerful.
Yeah. Although I gotta be honest, like this guy whose bow and arrow can like just change elements whenever he wants. I mean, that's actually things like that would be a power that would come in handy now.
Yeah,
like I would love to be able to have that.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And since obviously now I'm getting it because earlier you said that your favorite comic book character growing up was Cyborg, right?
Yeah.
And you just mentioned in a way like in your description of one of your characters here that he sort of resembles that.
Yeah.
Did you pull from that as your inspiration?
No, I just honestly I was trying to kind of find a setting for everything, and I love the aesthetic of steampunk.
Okay.
So that's kind of where that falls in. I was going through steampunk pictures and I saw something. I was like, that's dope.
Yeah.
And then I kind of just intertwined my idea for the character with some steampunk characters.
All right.
So,
I actually got a steampunk outfit, like this hat and goggles and whatnot. And I love it. I got it from Alaska, of all things, and it embarrasses everyone in my family when I wear it. So therefore, I wear it a lot.
Yeah, of course. Yeah,
I'm a big fan of that look, actually.
Yeah.
So I think that's incredible. Now, if without I guess giving away too much, because I know obviously you want people to go out and buy the comic and you want people to read the story and get hooked, but give everyone just a basic understanding. What's the premise here? What's the primary storyline?
Okay. So the team here, they are like the remaining essence of a celestial being that sacrificed himself and then split himself 4 ways and made him into them.
Whoa.
And they're defending themselves, I guess, from the return of the guy who he sacrificed himself to kill.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's actually incredible.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a big deal. So I'm sure that as the story progresses and we see, in further issues, or you're probably going to dive deeper in each one of the characters individually.
Of course.
So we'll learn more about them. But they look amazing. Now let's talk about the artwork here. How did you come up with the artwork? Because I got to be honest, I mean, it's beautiful.
Thanks.
It's ridiculous, actually.
Yeah. So it's good to know people. I don't actually draw. I just I had them visioned in my head, and I tried to like write it out as clear and as using as many words as possible to explain what the vision I had for my in my head was. And the guy just nailed it like perfectly.
Really?
So I've been just coming back to him and been working together a lot.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. So I mean, listen, this guy nailed obviously the artistry of your comic, but that's true. I mean, help everyone understand who's never really got into like the behind the scenes of comic book writing. Maybe a lot of people think that the guy who writes the script is the same guy who sketches it, is the same guy who colors it in, is the same guy who did, like, that's not true, right? Can you explain the process to everyone?
Sure. So we'll use one of the biggest writers right now as an example, Donny Cates. He's huge. He's writing Venom. He's writing Daredevil. He's writing independent stuff. He's huge. He did God Country, Buzzkill. He's like the guy that everybody wants right now. And he actually went to art school first. He was an artist, but he saw that he was better at writing, so he started writing. And even someone who's able to do both recognizes that he shouldn't do both. And he got one of his art friends from high school, and he wrote Buzzkill, and his friend drew it. Then he wrote God Country, and his friend drew it. And I guess it's important to rely on other people. In like, if your vision, you could do it by yourself, it's not big enough. And I would just figure, like, might as well just do it. But how it works is I go page by page. I guess I do it as like a scene. So I write out, this is page 1. This is what I want to happen. We could split it into like 6 panels. I'll explain a little bit what's going on in each panel, and then we'll just go to the next page. And then across, this one's only, it's a teaser, about 9 pages. I explained what I wanted in it. I laid it out panel for panel for the most part, and the guy was just able to draw it up nice. So that's kind of how
that's
it works.
incredible.
Yeah.
You actually said 2 things that I want to talk about a little bit, and I think that for our audience of entrepreneurs listening, it's important for them to latch onto something that you said. No, the first thing that you said, that there was the guy, the DC guy, and there's no way that he can sort of do everything on his own. You have to be able to delegate to people who are great and excellent at individual things, and therefore the whole project ended up being great then.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about that a little bit. You know, what do you think would have happened if you were like, I've got this great idea, I'm going to do everything myself. Because I want to protect the idea. You know, I don't want to give any creative license to anyone else because no one knows what's in my head. So what do you think would have happened, even whether it be timeline or quality, if you decided I'm going to do everything on my own?
I personally probably wouldn't have done it. I would have gotten overwhelmed by just the sheer like amount of work I have to do. I have to write, I have to come up with new characters, to come up with a plot.
Yeah.
Now I have to draw them all. It's easier to like work with people and have a little critique of what they want to do, especially if you're going to own everything, than it is to just try and do everything yourself, because overwhelming yourself is you're never going to get anything done that way.
Yeah.
And like, sorry, not to cut you off, the example with Donnie, like we were talking about, he writes like 4 or 5 stories right now.
Wow.
If he was writing and drawing everything at the same
Nothing
time,
would get done.
Yeah, there would be take too much time.
Right.
And people would just using it as an excuse not to do it. Oh, I'm still drawing it, you
right?
know? So I can't put it out yet. But it's like, I already have issues like 3 and 4 done already. I only put out 1, so I'm like ready to go. I got the ball rolling, so it's just easier to be prepared for the next stuff than overwhelm yourself.
Yeah, that's great. You know, I think it was a Ford who came up with the idea of the assembly line, and the reason he came up with the assembly line was, number 1, efficiency, but 2, he knew that if he put one person who was great at doing one thing, he would also create a better product. Yeah. Obviously, fast forward 100 years later, it worked out for him. You know, and a lot of people have now copied that model, and they copy it for a reason, and that's actually in line with what you're doing. You know, it's sort of like the assembly line sort of approach to things, is that you're like, all right, I'm going to find someone who's great at it, because it's not only about efficiency, about being able to do it in a timely manner, but it's also about putting out the very best product possible. So, and I think those are the 2 reasons why a lot of people fail to do anything. Is number 1, it's a time factor. I don't have enough time to do it, because they're under this misconception that I've got to do everything myself. Yeah. You know, that's not true at all. And number 2 is the pride factor. Is they think I'm the only one that can do it. And you were smart enough to put both aside and say, I'm going to bring on the right people to enable me to execute on this, because executing on the idea is more important. Absolutely.
Yeah. And, you know, once you put out stuff and you get, perhaps it's a money issue. Once you get more money, you can put out a better product. But like, I don't know, I've heard like musicians say all the time, it's like, I'd rather put out 1 million songs and like 2 of them be a hit than put out 0 songs and none of them be a hit.
Right.
You know?
Right. Good point. Absolutely good point. And then you said another thing is that, if it was something along the lines of
the vision thing.
Yeah, like if what you're doing is you're just doing it yourself, it's not big enough or something like that. Yeah. I love that quote. Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay, so I mean, what I want to do with this is to be able, like, I don't want to use this as an example because it's big and popular, but I'm going to. I want this to be something like my Ninja Turtles, where it's like it started off as a comic book, becomes like video games, like pop culture, movies, like icons. You know, that's like what I see for this. And if I didn't have a vision big enough to hit that, I wouldn't have the excellence big enough to hit that.
Right.
This is just going to be another independent comic that I read with my friends. Then it's just gonna be stick figures. Like,
well, right. Then it's just a bucket list item. Congratulations, you did it. It was fun.
Whatever. Yeah.
Right. But this is something that you're serious about.
Yeah.
So therefore, you're taking the process seriously. And that's important. That's why you're aiming big here.
Absolutely.
I love it. So then you also, lastly, you said that you have a few of these comics already finished.
Written. Yeah.
Written. Right. So you didn't just do one and then you were like, oh, we'll see how it goes. You even took it a step further. and you wrote the next, you said 3?
I have 2 more written, 1 being written as we speak.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
So how often do you think you'll be pushing out a brand new comic?
I hope to do at least once a month.
Once a month.
Yeah.
Is that like the typical
That's
going
typical, yeah.
industry?
Mm-hmm.
Typical. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I want to meet the industry standard in order to surpass it.
Mm-hmm. I gotcha. Now, where can people go to learn more about the comic?
Okay. We're pretty big on Instagram right now because of some branding changes. Our Facebook and other social medias are kind of going through change. So Instagram's a big spot right now.
Yeah.
You could purchase the comic digitally around Kindle right now. We're working on getting printing through Amazon as well. But you could also go to my website and v1games.shop.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, I know a lot of people with the e-readers and whatnot, and a lot of people like to do that. But I think there's nothing that can possibly
Paperback,
substitute
sure.
the good old-fashioned paperback.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So people I know are going to want to have this in their hands, and they could do that, right?
Yeah. So issue 1's actually out of stock. We sold out like
holy cow,
faster than I was able to blink. Like I had friends text me like, "Yo, did you sell out?" I was like, "Did I sell out?" Like,
you didn't even know.
Yeah. So
no way.
So
That's awesome.
I'm printing some up, hoping to get them in by midweek this week.
Wow.
I have a bunch for everybody, but you
holy
could
cow.
get a bunch, yeah.
That's legit, man.
Yeah.
I love it. So you're sold out. So like basically, like the copies that we're seeing right here, I got one in the background.
Yeah,
there's 3 left.
Yeah.
So we're gonna auction them off for $1 million each right now. It's a law of supply and demand, right?
Yeah, right. Absolutely. So this is actually issue 0, which I have a couple more left of. You can still get those. Issue 1 is what's sold out. Yeah.
Oh wow, that's legit, man. All right, very cool. So, all right, I want to switch gears a little bit.
Okay.
Still talking about the comic, but in the context of now this pandemic. Obviously, almost everyone around the world, they were hit really hard by this pandemic, whether it be their health, their business, so financially, everyone was impacted by this one way or another. But we're going to talk about the marketplace for a second. The marketplace got nailed. I mean, they were just clobbered, and it's going to be a long time before they recover. And so people from the outside looking in, they're like, man, if current businesses are struggling the way they are, man, there's no way to launch a business. There's no way to work on anything. I'm going to have to wait until this is over in order to be able to pursue like some of the ideas that I have. But I think we have a little bit of proof here that that's actually not true. When did you start this whole project?
I probably started at least brainstorming in like March.
Yeah. So all right. So let me get this straight. The shutdown. Hold on. I'm gonna bring my producer in. Can I do that? I'm gonna break character here. What is it called in the fourth wall?
Fourth wall.
All right. We're gonna break the fourth wall for a second. I'm gonna bring in Craig. Craig, remind me again. When was the shutdown?
March.
Thank you, Craig. Yes. So I believe the shutdown was in March. And so we're shut down, and you decide, you know what? I'm gonna launch.
Yeah,
I'm gonna launch a comic book.
Yeah, so
that's wild.
So I was like deemed essential from the start, and I was the only one of my coworkers actually going into work. So I had a lot of time to myself, and I'm like, you know what? This kind of sucks. I don't want to do this.
Yeah,
let's get out of this.
Right.
And I'm working on getting myself out of there.
Yeah.
So.
That's amazing. I don't know if you know this, but actually some of the world's, even historically, biggest companies were formed during recessions, during times of great economic difficulty, because it creates opportunity.
Yeah.
And so it's that a lot of people think, man, I got to shut down, but it's the people that are willing to be a little risky and buckle down actually and get creative and look at it as an opportunity, being opportunistic. There you go. I could talk good when I gotta, right? Listen, hooked on phonics worked for me.
Right.
Only for certain words though.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you have to be what that word that Nick just said, and you could do great things. And here's you, like we're shut down, and instead of being like, I'm just gonna be locked down, quarantined, do nothing, be miserable, be depressed, you're like, no, I'm gonna do something with it.
Right.
And not only did you do something creatively to pass the time, you created something of quality that now you have a whole business centered around, and you sold out. Right?
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine if it's amazing. And I think a lot of people should look at you and your story and be inspired by this, that you are not really your circumstance. I don't believe that. And I believe that a lot of people, in this world, they do have struggles in their lives, and you have a decision. you can either become a victim of your circumstance, and everyone would be like, I understand. Because of your situation, I understand why you're not doing something, or I understand, whatever. And it would be fine. But that's not your only option.
Right.
There's also option 2, where you can you're like, screw that. I'm going to create something wonderful for myself.
Yeah.
And here's something that you created, something amazing. Like amazing right here. And this is just the start of something huge. And in 10 years from now, you might be the next Marvel, where they're doing this like 23, 24 movie, timeline over the course of 12 years. You know what I mean?
One story arc.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Like that's going to be you one day. And all because you decided to,
go for it.
Go for it.
Like that's something I just learned during this process, was just like, I'm done with the excuses. Let's just do it.
Right. Right.
And you never know what it could be unless you like find out.
Yeah.
So
yeah. I'm going to break the fourth wall. Sorry for doing this again, but I got to talk to my guy over there, Craig, because Craig is also a big comic book guy, right? And now, Craig, have you read this? Have you checked out Nick's comic?
I'm just going to start off by saying I'm glad that Marvel was finally thrown into the mix. There was a lot of DC love going around, and I'm happy that we finally got back to Marvel. Yes, I have read it, and I love it.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Yeah, he did a really, really great job. Now, Craig, I've got a question.
Okay.
And I want you and Nick to debate this right now, because I know we've got a DC guy.
Oh, yeah.
We've got a Marvel guy. Which one is right? Like, who's right? Is DC better than Marvel? Is Marvel better than DC?
Ready? 1, 2, 3.
DC.
Marvel. Cut to my
honestly,
camera. I'm not even letting them on camera. Right. It's Marvel.
So it's really based off like aesthetic to me. I really like DC better because I don't know, just they're darker, they're like whatever, gloomy, like violent, stuff like that.
Darker, gloomy, and violent.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, like I told you, my favorite storyline is when the Joker cut his face off and then cut the faces of all the Robins off.
That's pretty morbid.
Yeah.
But also, if you want the easiest story of all time, you also go to DC, because they created one character who does everything, and he cannot be beat. So it's the easiest story ever told.
Wait a minute, what character is that?
Superman.
Oh.
He was also the first one.
Oh, yeah.
Or one of them, at least.
Well, didn't they kill him? Didn't Superman die?
It depends. If they say his heart rate got so slow that it couldn't be detected, and then he like zoomed off into the sun and got all his powers
and then he came back again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a nice little trick.
We all gotta do it sometimes.
Okay, all right.
Sometimes you just gotta drift off into that sun.
Although I haven't seen Hulk die. Hulk even tried to kill himself.
He got shot in the brain and was still alive.
Right.
So.
And listen, he turns massive and green. At least Superman gets to maintain his, his beautiful image.
I suppose. I don't know really what point you're trying to make with that.
None. I'm just trying to stay impartial, like stay Switzerland's here.
Rob, who are you really for though? Come on.
All right. Yeah, listen, I'm going to actually be an unbiased moderator here, and I am, but I will give opinion. Here's my opinion. I think Marvel has done a better job.
Bingo.
Guys,
thank you for tuning in to Don't Fear Grit.
I think Marvel has done a better job over the last 15 years commercializing their product and doing a better job at creating a product that reaches a brand new audience. They made it brand new. They made it fresh.
I don't think anybody could argue that.
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to take an old product and keep it fresh with brand new generations. And I think Marvel has done a much better job than DC.
Agreed.
And DC definitely has to up their game. With that said, there's always going to be props to the people that were in the game first. There's always going to be, you have to give props to the company that created the characters like Batman. They did Superman, Batman, right? Mm-hmm. And these are iconic characters. Both Batman and Superman, and I know you're going to disagree with this, are actually more popular than any Marvel character, though. And I can't deny it. It is fact. Because when you ask someone, if you ask someone, who's your favorite comic book character, most people are gonna say Batman or Superman. They're not gonna bring up, even though I know Marvel's been like crazy with Avengers and you got Iron Man and all these people, but ultimately they associate those two characters with comics.
Fine. I mean, yes, we can give DC an obligatory greatest life's achievement award. That person when they get the lifetime achievement award when you haven't done anything in like 30 years, but like, hey, you were good once. Remember that time? Give them that.
I don't know, but like on the silver screen,
the Joker
on
movie,
TV,
the Joker movie was DC is turning it around with their movies.
I mean, their television has been like top of the, like You can't even compare Marvel.
No,
TV
no,
and-
like Green Arrow.
If you're into
Flash,
low budget
that was
TV,
all good
then
stuff.
yes.
But like even like they're owned by Warner, so all the Cartoon Network stuff is just amazing.
Yeah.
Like so they've been killing
It's
it.
amazing. Like Craig all of a sudden comes to life.
Yeah.
You know, like when we talk about other things, he's just like there.
We
But
don't
now all of
wanna
a sudden we
talk
talk about like, wait a minute, Marvel's not as good as DC. Boom, he's coming to life.
Money,
Even though
family,
Right.
who cares
DC's been
about
putting
those
out good
things? Tell me
movies
about
since the
Marvel.
'80s, like Batman, Michael Keaton.
It's true. It is true. So anyway,
Everybody
listen,
forgets
Craig,
that,
thank you
though.
for your opinion. I appreciate
No
that.
problem.
Our wonderful producer that we all know and love, C-Reg. Appreciate you, my friend.
Thanks.
But closing this out right here, so we got some really great stuff from you. I love the fact that you did this during a pandemic and you did it successfully, that you went to launch, you're already sold out. I mean, obviously, it's clear you got something amazing here, right? I've read it myself. I think the work is great. I think the illustrator that you have did a wonderful job. I think that the storyline is amazing. I think the scripting is great, and it's, you know what's great? It's not a one-off. I can tell this is not a one-off.
I already have
what I
the
mean?
next villain in place.
Right,
So.
right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you read this and you're like, wow, this is definitely a long-term story that I want to know about, and you did a great job of creating that. So it's going to be awesome. I think everyone needs to go out and you know, take a look at this and download it. Now, earlier you were talking a little bit about you know, when you were reading comics, and you mentioned, you know, two markets. You know, the religious sort of market and the non-religious market, and the differences between, you know, what's available to both. You know, did you create this for one particular type of person, or is this something that like anyone can read?
So it wasn't originally intended for, you know, high school, usually men, boys, those who read comic books, up until college, just that ripe age for influence. And then I was actually planning on marketing to them and mothers of them.
Oh, okay.
You know, we're Christian. We're a big Christian company. That's what we believe in. A lot of the characters have characteristics similar to like Jesus and the Godhead and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So that's where the influence come from, and that's what I want to show people is like there's a way to make non-corny Christian content that's still like relevant, that's still enjoyable to read, that's still action-packed, whatever. So
Yeah, listen, you know, having obviously, you know, grown up in the church myself, and with the background that I have, I'm a little bit older than you, just a little bit. But
you were my youth pastor, don't forget that.
Yeah, so I'm a lot older, I guess. But it is true, especially growing up in the 80s and 90s, is any time you thought of content within the religious, you know, industry, it was like subpar, second rate, and they were like, oh, but you know what, we'll give them a pass because it's Christian or it's religious, so yeah, good try, and we'll read it still. But like, we'll be honest, like most of it was just crap,
right?
You know, the quality of it was just not good. And I think that is probably what hurt their ability to enter any type of market, especially in the mainstream. That's why like for me, when I saw this, the first thing I was most impressed with was the cover. Right. You know, I looked at this and I'm like, man, there's nothing like second rate about this. This is like high end. I can put this in any comic book store and next to any comic, and they'd be like, man, that's an amazing cover.
I wanted to make something where you wouldn't be ashamed to show your friends. Like,
absolutely.
Yo, read this. This is dope.
Like, check this out.
And I wasn't pulling punches, like, not to spoil it, but it's the teaser book. So there's a guy who takes a cyanide pill in there. Like,
wow.
Like, I'm not pulling punches because this is real world problems that people deal with. And it's like, I don't want to be like sugarcoating things because, well, I mean, Jesus never did. So
that's true.
Why are we?
Yeah.
Like, I grew up with like Bible Man. Like, it was like a knockoff Batman who like threw Bibles at people. VeggieTales is legendary, but like besides that, like,
that was legit. Hold on, don't knock VeggieTales.
No, I like VeggieTales. VeggieTales
you know?
was legendary, but besides that, like Tolkien and like and Lewis, they were like legends because their stories, like, they had Christian influence, but they weren't corny. Like, how many people love Lord of the Rings? Like Chronicles of Narnia.
It's true.
Like,
no, you're making a great point.
So like, let's just make good stuff and
and all of those things that you're mentioning, whether it be Lord of the Rings or Chronicles of Narnia, you know, they all started with the idea of putting pen to paper and creating at least a first draft in book form, and you're doing that. You know, and so kudos to you. So
thank you.
So I know you're saying like your target market is like a certain profile of an individual. We call it a customer avatar. But I mean, if let's say like an 8-year-old, you know, wants to read this, could they read this?
I mean, it might be a little violent.
Okay.
Like, because, like, you know, again, gritty, like,
Yeah.
not pulling punches.
Sure.
But a kid could definitely pick up this book, understand what's going on.
Yes.
Not, like, get nightmares, nothing, like,
Yeah,
sexual,
yeah.
nothing bad.
Good.
So,
Okay.
like,
Awesome.
just good superhero content.
Yeah.
That's a little darker.
If you could put the word clean, violent together, it would be this.
It would be like, Clylant.
there you go. And then I know that you didn't necessarily now that I'm hearing you didn't necessarily create this for the religious market, but it sounds like this could be a really great tool for churches, for youth pastors, that they can recommend a really great book to maybe someone who has interest in comic books. Be like, yo, check this out.
Right.
You'll love this. Right?
Yeah, like, hey, man, my youth group's going to go see the new Flight Team movie on Friday. You want to come hang out? Like, whatever. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. And then I guess this also could be a little bit of a plug. How'd you come up with the name Flight Team?
Okay.
And then, it just in the same answer, how did you come up with the name for your business?
Okay. So I'll answer the second one first to get to the first one.
Yeah.
Okay. So V1 Studios. I actually attend V1 Church, and I was struggling to come up with a name for the company, which is a serious problem, and don't let it inhibit you. Still do the work and then come up with the name later. That's something I definitely learned.
Good advice.
But we're struggling with a name. I wanted his blessing on one to be able to go out. This is like
Who's his?
Pastor Mike, my
there
pastor.
You go. Your pastor.
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanted his approval to go off and do something ministerial. Like, this is a ministry for me, so I wanted to get like his blessing to do that. And then I was like, I don't have a name. Can we use like V1 Games, V1 Studios, whatever?
Yeah.
To use your marketing, stuff like that, your brand. He's like, yeah, totally, absolutely. So V1 Studios, that's how we got there. And V1 is actually a flight term. When you're about to take off, that's like your speed of like, you're okay to take off, and you can't turn back now or else you're going to crash.
Right,
so you
right.
have to take off. So Flight Team, it's kind of a plan that you take off. It's whatever. It's just a flight term.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
Love it.
And I felt like there's an alpha strike type, like flight teams here to save the day.
Yeah.
So.
All right. I like that. All right. So cool. One thing that you said, I want people to understand who maybe don't understand that word ministry, because a lot of people who are maybe not in the religious, circle, they look at that word and they define it differently maybe than you might. How do you define this word ministry? Because you said this is a ministry, right? Right.
Yeah. So this is just my way of spreading the gospel. Plain and simple. Like, it doesn't look like Jesus on its cover. I'm not throwing a Bible at you, but it's biblically inspired, and I'm just using it to spread some good news.
Yeah. So for you, like, life is ministry, right? It doesn't mean you have to be a missionary to a third world country or I mean, just doing life.
Yeah. It's a mindset. It's kind of like a livelihoods, just like worship. Like, it's kind of just who you are. You're going out talking to people, whatever, having a good time, not being weird. Those weird Christians.
Not being weird.
Exist.
Yeah. Good luck finding someone who's not weird these days. Like, listen, I gotta be honest. I'm Captain Weird myself. Like, I don't mind it. Whatever.
We all have a little quirk,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and to bring C-Reg back into it, like, there are a few people that I've met that are as strange as this gigantic fellow that we have here in C-Reg. So we'll call you. Hey, here's your Marvel name, Captain Weirdo. There you go.
Hey, thanks, man.
Captain Insano.
Listen, Nick, thank you so much for coming out to the studio.
Thank you.
I'd love to always have you out here as you're releasing new comics. You always will have my endorsement. And anything that you do, I've known you for a long time. You and your family for a very, very long time. But I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
I think the work, man, you deserve it. The work that you put out here is incredible. And I honestly believe it doesn't matter what your background is. I think everyone would enjoy this. I think that they would even not just enjoy it from an entertainment perspective, but I think they would enjoy it because there's a lot to learn from these from comics. And that's something that I think is largely overlooked in general. Yeah. That not all comics, I think, fit into that category, but you can find some good comics that I think that there are some great life lessons, and there are some comics that I allow my kids to read. There are a lot of them that I don't, but some of them I do because I've read them. I preview it and I say, hey, check this out, because it's good quality stuff. It's clean, right? And they can learn some things. And I think here you literally have a comic that hits on everything. It's like the perfect comic. Yeah. So you did a great job, man.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
So you're going to nail it. So anyway, one more time, let everyone know, where can they find you? Where can they find out more information about the comic, your studio, all that good stuff?
So personal Instagram Nikki_G_fish because I'm Nikki G Fish. You could find my company at V1_studios, and you could follow the comic book at official_flight team.
Sweet.
All on Instagram. That's the best spot.
All Instagram, right there. All right, awesome, guys. Go check it out. And even if you guys can't purchase the comic, you can also help out V1 Studios by at least telling someone else about
Please,
it.
yeah.
I think awareness, like in anything, is really, really important. And I think that as a community, I want you guys to know that I support him, I endorse him, and I want you guys to do the same thing. So if I've ever given you guys any type of value, I want you to go ahead and give now that back to Nick, and go ahead and just check out his stuff. At the very least, go follow him on Instagram and read his comics. It's really, really cool stuff, man. I can't wait for all your future comics that you're gonna be releasing. It's good stuff, man.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You got it, buddy. You got it, man. All right, guys, you heard it. Go follow him. Remember, this is so important. Don't fear the process, like my boy right here. He did not fear the process. And don't fear grit. We'll see you next time. Take care, guys.